Alien slave girl thought middle-aged human was buying her for torture, but he saved her instead. The space station floated at the edge of known trade routes, far from the clean laws of the inner systems. Its metal skin was old and scarred, patched again and again by hands that did not care about beauty, only survival. Inside, the air smelled of oil, recycled breath, and quiet fear. This was a place where people did not ask questions, and where suffering was sold as a normal business. Deep inside the station, a large hall had been cleared. Bright lights shone down on a raised platform. Seats surrounded it in a wide circle, filled with beings from many species. Some were tall and scaled, some small and furred, some hidden behind masks and breathing devices. Their eyes were focused on the platform, waiting. Credits were ready. No one spoke about what this place really was, but everyone knew. The alien girl stood on the platform with her hands bound behind her back. She was not a child, but she was young for her species. Her body was thin from months of poor food. Faint marks covered her arms and neck, reminders of chains and shock collars. Her skin was a pale blue-gray, dulled by exhaustion. Large dark eyes stared forward, empty and tired, yet filled with fear she could not hide. She had learned not to cry. Crying made things worse. This was not her first auction. Each time she hoped she would not be chosen. Each time she hoped the buyers would pass her by. Each time someone always raised their hand. She had been trained to expect pain. Buyers never wanted slaves for kindness. They wanted labor or obedience or something far worse. Rumors passed between captives in whispers when guards were not listening. Some spoke of torture used as entertainment. Some spoke of experiments. Some spoke of humans. Humans were rare here, but their stories traveled fast. Strong, stubborn, unpredictable, creative in ways that scared everyone. When the auctioneer had announced a human bidder earlier, her heart had almost stopped. The auctioneer, a tall, insect-like alien with clicking mandibles, raised one thin arm and spoke loudly. Lot 47, adult female, healthy enough for work, compliant, no recorded rebellion attempts. That was a lie. She had tried to run once. The scars proved it. Bidding began. Numbers were called out in sharp tones. The girl kept her eyes low, her breathing shallow. She tried to make herself small, invisible. Every new voice made her flinch. Then the hall went quiet. A human had stood up. He was not tall like the warrior she had imagined. He was not young either. His hair was dark but streaked with gray. Lines marked his face, deep lines earned by time and stress, not cruelty. His clothes were plain, functional, worn, clearly used for work rather than display. No weapons were visible on him, which was unusual in a place like this. He raised one hand calmly and named a price. It was higher than the others. A murmur passed through the hall. Several bidders clicked or hissed in annoyance. The auctioneer looked pleased. The girl felt cold. Her mind filled with fear so sharp it almost hurt. Humans did not spend that much unless they wanted something very specific. She had heard the stories. Humans were patient. Humans could be gentle before they were cruel. Humans could break you slowly. She forced herself to stay still. Resistance would only make it worse. Another bidder tried to raise the price, but the human answered immediately, adding more credits without hesitation. His voice was calm, steady, almost bored. The final signal sounded. The auctioneer struck the platform. Sold. The word echoed in her mind like a sentence of death. Guards stepped forward and unlocked the magnetic restraints from the platform, but not from her wrists. They pushed her toward the human. She stumbled but caught herself. The human did not touch her. He only stepped aside and waited until she was standing near him. Up close, she could smell him. Not blood, not chemicals, just fabric, metal, and the faint scent of something warm and familiar she could not name. He signed the transfer pad quickly. The guards passed him the control chip linked to her restraints. She closed her eyes. This was the moment when pain usually started, but nothing happened. No shock, No pull on the chain, no harsh words. When she dared to open her eyes, the human was looking at the guards, not at her. His expression was neutral, unreadable. "Transfer complete," one guard said. "She's your property now." The word property made her chest tighten. The human nodded once. "Understood." The guards walked away without another glance. The hall moved on to the next lot. Another captive was brought forward. Life continued, uncaring. The human turned to her slowly. She tensed, muscles ready for impact. Instead of raising the control chip, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. He pressed it gently against her wrist restraints. There was a soft click and the metal loosened. Her hands were free. She stared at them in shock, fingers trembling as she moved them. No owner had ever done that, not here. "Easy," the human said quietly. His voice was low, steady, not loud enough to draw attention. "No sudden moves, just act normal." She did not understand, but she nodded slightly. He gestured toward a side exit. "Walk with me." Her legs felt weak, but she followed. Every step felt unreal. She waited for the shock to hit. It never did. They moved through the crowd and into a quieter corridor. The sounds of the auction faded behind them. The lights here were dimmer. The walls were scratched and dirty. Only when they were alone did he stop. He turned to face her, keeping a respectful distance. "My name is Daniel," he said. "I'm human and I'm not going to hurt you." The words made no sense. She shook her head slowly. Her voice, when it came, was rough from disuse. You bought me." "Yes," he said, "I did." "That means—" She could not finish the sentence. "It means I had to," Daniel replied. "There was no other way to get you out of there without causing a scene too early." Too early, her heart raced. "This is a trick," she whispered. "Kindness always comes before," he raised one hand gently. "I know, and I'm sorry for that, but listen to me. I don't own you. I never wanted to." She stared at him, confusion fighting with fear. "Then why?" Daniel took a slow breath. For a moment, the tiredness in his eyes deepened. "Because someone should have done it a long time ago," he said. "And because humans don't forget what slavery looks like." He reached into his jacket again, this time pulling out a small bottle. He opened it and placed it on a nearby crate, then stepped back. "Water," he said. "Clean, no drugs." She hesitated for several seconds, then picked it up. Her hands shook as she drank. The water was cool and real. Nothing burned, nothing happened. Tears filled her eyes before she could stop them. Daniel looked away, giving her space. When she finished, he spoke again. "I'm going to record something now. I want you to know this is happening." He activated a small device on his wrist. A soft light blinked. "This is Daniel Reyes," he said clearly. "Independent trader and registered humanitarian contractor. I am currently on Station K-17. I have just completed a purchase at an illegal slave auction operating under false labor claims. Evidence has been collected. Transfer records confirmed." Her breath caught. He was documenting it openly. Are you law?" she asked quietly. He gave a small smile, not a happy one. "No, but I know how to wake it up." Alarms did not sound. No guards came running, yet Daniel turned back to her. "I have a ship docked here, medical supplies, food. Legal channels already moving, even if they don't know it yet." He paused. "But I need to ask you something." Fear returned, sharp and cold. "What? Do you want to leave this station?" The question stunned her. "Want choice?" She had not been asked what she wanted in a very long time. She looked back toward the direction of the auction hall. She remembered chains, pain, silence. Then she looked at the corridor ahead, unknown but open. "Yes," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "Then we move. And no matter what happens next, you stay behind me." "Understood." She nodded again. As they began walking, she realized something terrifying and hopeful at the same time. For the first time since her capture, someone was not walking ahead of her with a leash. Someone was walking beside her. And for reasons she could not yet understand, the most feared species in the galaxy had just become her shield. They moved through the station corridors at a steady pace, not running, not hiding. Daniel knew panic drew attention. Calm, boring movement was safer here. The alien girl walked beside him, her steps small and careful, as if the floor itself might punish her for moving without permission. The corridors changed as they went deeper. Bright public lights gave way to dim service panels. The walls were stained with age. Pipes ran openly along the ceiling, dripping slow drops of water that echoed softly. Every sound made the girl tense. She kept glancing at Daniel, waiting for his mask to fall, waiting for anger or cruelty to show. It never did. His face stayed serious, focused, like a man doing a job that mattered. Her name was still a secret. Slaves were not asked their names. Names gave identity, and identity made control harder. They passed a group of armed station security. The girl froze, fear locking her body. Daniel placed himself half a step in front of her without touching her, blocking her from direct view. He handed over his trader credentials calmly. The guards barely glanced at the girl. To them, she was just cargo already paid for. "Dock level?" one guard asked. "Cargo Bay 9, Daniel replied easily. The guard waved them through. Only when they were out of sight did the girl breathe again. Daniel spoke quietly as they walked. "You're doing good, just keep matching my pace." She nodded. Her throat felt tight. Why are they not stopping us?" "Because slavers depend on routine," he said, "and because they think they already won." They reached a small lift at the end of the corridor. Daniel keyed in a command code. The doors slid shut with a heavy sound. As the lift descended, the hum of machinery filled the space. The girl hugged her arms around herself. The closed space made old memories rise. Cages, transport holds, darkness. Daniel noticed. He did not speak right away. Instead, he adjusted his stance, giving her more space, making sure she was not cornered. "You're safe in here," he said finally. "No restraints, no traps." She swallowed. "How can you be sure?" "I built this lift override myself," he replied. "Years ago, when this station still pretended to be legal." The lift doors opened onto the docking level. The air smelled of fuel and cold metal. Ships of many shapes were docked here, some sleek, some damaged, some clearly stolen. Daniel's ship sat farther down, away from the crowds. It was medium-sized, scarred by travel but well-maintained. Its hull bore faded human symbols, not military, not corporate, just identification marks and warning labels. As they approached, the girl slowed. Ships meant transport. Transport often meant worse places. Daniel stopped walking. "You don't have to board if you don't want to," he said. She looked up at him, eyes wide. "You said leaving." "Yes, leaving the station, but leaving with me is still your choice." Choice again. The word felt heavy. She studied the ship. It did not look like a prison. No cages were visible through the open ramp. No guards waited inside. Soft white light spilled out, warm and steady. "I don't know where else to go," she admitted. "That's okay," Daniel said. "You don't have to know today." After a long moment, she nodded and stepped onto the ramp. Inside, the ship felt different from the station. The air was cleaner. The lights were softer. The floor was smooth and warm under her bare feet. Daniel guided her to a small seating area near the entrance. "Sit," he said gently. "I'll bring medical supplies." She sat slowly, every muscle still tense. Daniel returned with a compact kit and set it on the table between them. He opened it so she could see inside: bandages, scanners, basic medicine. "I won't touch you without permission," he said. "If something hurts, you say stop." She nodded again, unable to speak. He used a handheld scanner to check her vitals from a distance. The device beeped softly. "You're dehydrated and underfed," he said. "Nothing life-threatening, that's good." He handed her a nutrient bar and waited. She hesitated, then took a small bite. The taste was simple but filling. Her stomach cramped, not used to proper food. "Slow," Daniel advised. "Your body needs time." As she ate, the ship systems powered up. A low hum filled the room. Daniel activated a screen on the wall. Data streams scrolled past: station schematics, transaction records, auction logs. The girl watched him work. His hands moved with confidence, typing commands, tagging files, encrypting data. "What are you doing?" she asked quietly. "Sending evidence," he replied, "to multiple human networks, some official, some not." "Will they come?" she asked. "They always do," Daniel said. Eventually, a warning light blinked on the console. Daniel's jaw tightened. "They noticed." The girl's heart pounded. "Who?" "The people who ran the auction. They're realizing one of their transactions isn't behaving like it should." He stood. "We're leaving now." The ship's engines warmed. The ramp began to close. Before it fully sealed, voices echoed from the docking bay, angry, alarmed. A security override hit the ship's systems. The lights flickered. Daniel swore under his breath and moved fast. "They're trying to lock us in." The girl stood, fear flooding back. "They're coming." "Yes," Daniel said calmly, "but not alone." He tapped a final command. A signal burst from the ship, cutting through the station's networks. Moments later, emergency alarms sounded throughout the docking level. Red lights flashed. Automated announcements blared warnings about unauthorized operations and structural violations. The slavers had built their operation quietly, but humans were very good at being loud. Security forces scrambled, confused by conflicting alerts. Daniel used the distraction. The ship lurched as docking clamps released. Engines roared. The girl stumbled. Daniel caught her arm, not tight, not painful, just enough to steady her. "Sorry," he said quickly. "Didn't mean to grab you." "It's okay," she whispered, surprised that it was. The ship shot forward, clearing the station just as weapons fire sparked behind them. The shields flared, holding. Stars stretched as they jumped to faster-than-light travel. Silence fell. The girl collapsed back into the seat, shaking. Tears ran freely now. She did not try to stop them. Daniel powered systems down to cruise and sat across from her, keeping distance. "You're out," he said softly. "They can't reach us here." She covered her face with her hands. Her shoulders shook. "I thought you would hurt me," she cried. "I was so sure." "I know," Daniel said. "That's why I didn't blame you for being afraid." She looked up at him, eyes red. "Why do humans care so much?" Daniel leaned back, staring at the stars on the screen. "Because we remember," he said. "We remember chains. We remember being treated like things. And some of us decided that if we ever got the power to stop it, we would." He paused. "Not all humans are good, but enough of us are stubborn." The girl wiped her eyes. "What happens to me now?" "That depends on you," Daniel replied. "You can stay here while you recover. You can leave at the next safe port. You can report what happened or never speak of it again." He looked at her seriously. "No one will force you." She sat quietly thinking. Her mind felt strange, without fear guiding every thought. After a moment she asked, "Can I tell you my name?" Daniel smiled gently. "Only if you want to." "My name is Asha," she said. "It's good to meet you, Asha," Daniel replied. For the first time, her name did not feel like something that could be taken away. Outside the ship, stars drifted past, unaware that a quiet war against cruelty had just taken one small but important step forward. The ship moved smoothly through open space, far from the dirty lights of the station. Inside, time slowed. The engines hummed in a steady, comforting rhythm. For Asha, the silence felt strange. Fear had filled every quiet moment of her life before. Now there was only emptiness, and she did not know what to do with it. Daniel gave her a private cabin near the medical bay. It was small but clean. A real bed waited inside with soft fabric and warm light. Asha stood in the doorway for a long time, unable to move. "It's yours," Daniel said from a respectful distance. "You can lock it from the inside if you want, or keep it open. Your choice." Her choice again. She stepped inside slowly and touched the bed. Her fingers sank into the fabric. It did not hurt. She sat down carefully as if expecting punishment. None came. Daniel left her alone after that. Hours passed. Asha slept for the first time without chains or alarms. The sleep was deep, heavy, and filled with confused dreams. She woke suddenly, heart racing, but the room was still safe. The door was still closed. No guards, no pain. When she left the cabin, she found Daniel in the common area reading data on a floating screen. He looked tired. Dark circles rested under his eyes. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked quietly. Daniel looked up, surprised. "No, why would you think that?" "You let me sleep," she said. He smiled sadly. "That's not wrong, Asha, that's normal." She nodded slowly, trying to understand. Over the next few days, the ship became a strange new world. Daniel taught her how to use basic controls, how to ask the ship for food, how to adjust the temperature. Everything was explained slowly, simply. He never rushed her. He never raised his voice. Asha learned that Daniel did not sleep much. He spent long hours monitoring channels, checking messages, and sending reports. Human networks responded in quiet ways, encrypted acknowledgments, coded warnings, promises of action. But trouble was coming. One cycle, the ship received a high-priority alert. Daniel's calm face hardened as he read it. Ashan noticed the change immediately. "What is it?" she asked. "They traced us," he said honestly. "Not exactly where we are, but close enough." Her body reacted before her mind did. Fear flooded her veins. "They're coming." "Yes," Daniel said, "but this time they won't be ready." He activated a holographic display of nearby space. Several unidentified ships appeared, moving slowly, cautiously. "They're bounty hunters," he explained. "Hired by the slavers. They want their property back." Asha's hands clenched. "I'll go back," she said quickly, "if it keeps you safe." Daniel turned to her sharply. "No," she flinched, but his next words were gentle. "You are not a thing to be returned," he said firmly, "and I will not trade your freedom for my safety." She stared at him. "But they will hurt you." "They might try," he replied, "but humans don't run when someone is counting on them." The ship's lights dimmed slightly as systems shifted to alert mode. Daniel moved with calm purpose, checking shields, rerouting power, locking certain corridors. A shaft followed him, unsure what to do but unwilling to be alone. "You should stay in your cabin," he told her. "I don't want to," she said quietly. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, then stay behind me, always." The bounty hunters hailed the ship. Their message was short and threatening. "Surrender the cargo, no harm if you comply." Daniel responded with silence. The first attack came without warning. Energy blasts struck the shields, shaking the ship. Asha cried out and grabbed a nearby rail. Daniel activated countermeasures, not weapons, but defensive bursts that blinded sensors and disrupted targeting systems. The ship moved sharply, dodging, weaving between drifting asteroids. "Why don't you just fight them?" Asha asked, fear shaking her voice. "Because winning isn't always about destroying," Daniel said. "Sometimes it's about surviving long enough." Another hit rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed. Daniel sent out a burst transmission, wide and loud. "This is a registered humanitarian vessel under human protection." His voice echoed through open channels. "Any attack will be recorded and prosecuted." The bounty hunters laughed. But then something unexpected happened. A larger signal appeared on the sensors, then another, and another. Human ships, not warships, traders, patrol craft, civilian vessels. They answered the call not because they were ordered to, but because they heard it. The bounty hunters hesitated. Daniel's screen filled with messages. Humans did not speak much, but their presence was clear. The hunters retreated. Silence returned to space. Asha sank to the floor, shaking. Daniel knelt beside her, careful not to touch her without permission. "It's over," he said softly. She looked up at him in disbelief. "They came for you." "For us," he corrected. After the danger passed, Daniel's ship changed course. They headed toward a human-controlled system, a safe one. During the journey, Asha began to change, slowly. She ate regularly, she slept. Her eyes lost some of their fear. She asked questions about humans, about Earth, about why they cared so much. Daniel answered honestly. One day, Asha found him staring at an old image on his screen. Humans standing together, small and fragile but unbroken. You miss your home, she said. Yes, Daniel admitted. But this is part of it. She hesitated. What am I part of? Daniel looked at her carefully. Whatever you choose to be. When they finally arrived at the human station, it was nothing like the place Asha had known. Clean corridors, open windows showing stars, people walking freely, laughing, arguing, living. No chains. As she stepped onto the station, Asha felt something new grow inside her. Not fear, not pain, purpose. She did not know what the future held, but she knew one thing. Humanity had not saved her because she was weak. They saved her because they refused to accept a universe where kindness was rare. And that, more than any weapon, was why they were feared. The human station orbited a calm blue star, bright and steady. From a distance it looked peaceful, almost fragile, but as Daniel guided the ship closer, layers of protection came into view. Defense platforms sat quietly in place, not threatening, not hidden. They were simply there, like guardians who did not need to shout. As the ship docked, Asha felt her legs shake. This place was different from any station she had ever seen. Wide windows showed open space instead of metal walls. The air felt clean, fresh, almost alive. People moved freely, speaking in calm voices, some laughing, some working, none afraid. Daniel powered down the engines and stood. "We're here," he said. "This is a protected station. No one can touch you here." Asha nodded, but fear still clung to her. Safety felt unreal. She followed Daniel down the ramp slowly, every step careful, ready for something bad to happen. Nothing did. A group of humans waited near the docking bay. They wore simple uniforms, not armored, not aggressive. One woman stepped forward, her hair tied back, her face serious but kind. "Daniel Reyes?" she asked. "That's me," Daniel replied. "I'm Officer Lin," she said. "We received your evidence package, all of it." She glanced at Asha, then back to Daniel. "You weren't exaggerating." "No," Daniel said quietly. They were guided through the station into a secure office. The walls were white, clean, covered in screens displaying data. Asha sat beside Daniel, hands folded tightly in her lap. Officer Lin activated a recording system. "Asha," she said gently, "you are not under arrest. You are not a suspect. You are a protected witness. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to." The words made Asha's chest tighten. Protected, witness. Daniel looked at her. "You decide." Asha took a deep breath. Memories rose, chains, pain, silence. Then she remembered the moment Daniel unlocked her restraints. "I will speak," she said softly. The interview lasted hours. Asha spoke slowly, carefully. She described the raids on her homeworld, the transport ships, the auctions, the lies. She described faces, voices, locations. Every word felt like pulling something sharp out of her chest, but she kept going. The humans listened. They did not interrupt. They did not doubt her. When it was over, Officer Lin turned off the recorder. Her hands were steady, but her eyes burned with quiet anger. "This confirms what we suspected," she said. "A large network, multiple stations, long-term operations." Daniel exhaled slowly. "So you'll act?" "We already are," Officer Lin replied. "Your evidence triggered automatic legal protocols. Warrants are being issued across several systems." Asha stared. "Just like that," Officer Lin nodded. "Humans move slowly when we argue, very fast when we agree." Over the next days, the station changed. News spread quietly through official channels. Ships arrived, not fleets, teams, investigators, relief workers, medical crews. Asha was given a medical evaluation. Real doctors examined her injuries with care. They explained everything before touching her. They treated scars, old and new. They gave her medicine to help her sleep without nightmares. Each small kindness felt heavy, like something she did not deserve, but no one treated her that way. To them, she was simply a person who had been hurt. Daniel stayed nearby but never hovered. He gave her space to breathe. One evening, Asha sat by a large window, watching ships come and go. Daniel joined her quietly. "They're dismantling it," he said. "The network." Asha swallowed. Will it really end? No, Daniel answered honestly. Not completely. Evil doesn't disappear, but this one won't hurt anyone again. She nodded slowly. That was more than she had ever hoped for. Days later, news reached the station. Several auction hubs had been seized, slaver leaders arrested, assets frozen, survivors freed. Ashas saw images on the screen, people like her, standing in the light, blinking in confusion as chains were removed. Tears filled her eyes. "They're free," she whispered. "Yes," Daniel said, "because you spoke." The weight of that settled over her. For the first time her pain had meaning beyond survival. But the slavers were not finished. A message arrived, encrypted and hateful. Threats, promises of revenge. Warnings that humans were overstepping. The station received it calmly. Officer Lin addressed a group of officials, Daniel present among them. "They're testing us," one officer said. Daniel crossed his arms. "They always do." "What do you suggest?" another asked. Daniel spoke without anger. "We don't hide, we don't threaten, we make it clear that slavery is expensive." "How?" someone asked. "With paperwork," Daniel replied. "With trade restrictions, with legal pressure that never stops." Some smiled, they understood. Humans did not always fight with weapons. Sometimes they buried their enemies under rules, laws, and relentless attention. Asha watched all of this from the outside, slowly understanding something important. Humans were not kind because they were soft. They were kind because they were stubborn. One afternoon, Officer Lin approached Asha with a tablet. "There's something we need to ask you," she said gently. "Not now if you're not ready. Later is fine." Asha nodded. "Ask." "We're forming a joint task force," Officer Lin explained. "Humans and other species who want to end these networks. Survivors who understand how slavers think are valuable, but participation is completely voluntary." Asha's heart raced. "You want me to help?" "Yes," Officer Lin said. "Only if you want to, training, support, protection, or you can walk away and live quietly. Both are valid." Asha looked at Daniel. He said nothing. He did not nod. He did not guide her. The choice was hers. That night, Asha could not sleep. She walked the station corridors, watching humans live ordinary lives. Families, workers, travelers. She remembered her home, what was taken, what was broken. In the observation garden, she stopped. Plants grew there, real soil under artificial light. She knelt and touched a leaf. Life continued even after damage. The next morning, Asha found Officer Lin. "I will help," she said. Her voice was steady. "If I can stop this from happening to someone else, I will." Officer Lin nodded with respect. "Then we'll walk with you." Not ahead, not behind. Training began slowly. Asha learned human laws, trade systems, how slavers hid their operations. She learned to speak in meetings without fear. She learned that her voice mattered. Daniel checked in often, always careful not to push. One day she asked him, "Why did you choose this life?" Daniel thought for a long moment. "Because once, a long time ago, someone helped me when they didn't have to." Asha smiled faintly. "Then it continues." "Yes," he said, "that's how humans work." When news finally broke publicly across the galaxy, reactions were strong. Some praised humans, some feared them, some accused them of interference. Humans answered with evidence, with survivors, with calm statements. "We do not own the galaxy," one official said. "But we will not share it with slavery." Asha stood beside Daniel during one of the broadcasts, not visible to cameras but present. She was no longer hiding. She was no longer silent. And somewhere far away, slavers learned a dangerous truth. Humans did not forget. Humans did not stop. And once they decided something was wrong, they would keep coming, not with rage but with patience, until the universe itself learned to change. Time passed, not fast, not slow, but steady. The kind of time that allowed wounds to close and thoughts to settle. On the human station, Asha's days slowly filled with purpose instead of fear. She trained with the task force, learning systems and patterns, learning how slavers hid behind contracts and false names. She was never forced. Every lesson began with a question: "Are you ready?" And every answer was respected. Some days were hard. Faces from her past appeared in her dreams. Old voices whispered that she was still owned, still weak. When that happened, she would wake up shaking, heart racing, breath short. Those nights she would walk to the observation deck. The stars were always there, quiet, endless. Daniel often found her there. He never asked why she was awake. He would stand beside her, hands resting on the rail, looking out into space as if searching for something he already knew was there. "You're doing well," he said one night. "I'm afraid," Asha replied honestly. "That means you care," Daniel said. "Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing to move anyway." She nodded, holding onto those words. The task force grew. Other species joined. Survivors from different worlds, different backgrounds, all carrying pain but also strength. Humans did not lead by shouting orders. They listened. They built trust slowly, piece by piece. Operations followed, quiet ones, legal ones, ships seized, accounts frozen, routes exposed. Slavers began to disappear, not in explosions but in courtrooms and holding cells. Their power drained away like air from a broken seal. The galaxy noticed. Some governments complained. Some accused humans of interference. Some tried to threaten them with sanctions. Humans responded calmly. They shared evidence. They shared survivor testimony. They shared history. They reminded the galaxy that once, long ago, humans had been enslaved too, that they had fought wars, written laws, and reshaped their world so it would never happen again. "And we learned something," one human official said during a broadcast. "Slavery does not end by ignoring it. It ends when it becomes too costly to exist." Asha watched these broadcasts from the side, unseen but present. She understood now why humans were feared, not because they were violent, because they were relentless. One cycle, Daniel received a message that changed everything. He read it twice, then closed the screen slowly. Asha noticed immediately. "What is it?" "The last major hub," Daniel said. "The one that moved when the others fell. We found it." Her heart beat faster. "Where?" "Far," he said. "Hidden, well protected." Silence stretched between them. "You don't have to be involved," Daniel added quickly. "You've done more than enough." Asha looked at her hands. They no longer shook like before. Scars remained, but they did not define her anymore. "I want to go," she said. Daniel searched her face. "Why?" "Because someone there still thinks no one is coming," Asha replied. "I know how that feels." The operation was planned carefully. No rushing, no heroics, evidence first. Allies informed, escape routes prepared. When they finally arrived near the hidden hub, Asha felt fear rise again, but it was different now, sharper, focused. She stood on the bridge beside Daniel as the station appeared on the screen, smaller than the one she had been sold on, darker, quiet. "They think they're invisible," Daniel said. "They're not," Asha replied. The signal was sent, evidence released, warrants activated. Ships jumped in from multiple directions, human and non-human alike. The slavers panicked. Some tried to flee. Their engines failed under legal lockdowns. Some tried to fight. They were ignored, boxed in, recorded. No one screamed. No one was tortured. No revenge was taken. They were simply stopped. When it was over, the docking bays opened and captives were led out into the light. Some cried, some stared in disbelief, some collapsed. Asha watched from the bridge, tears streaming down her face. "It's finished," Daniel said softly. "For them," Asha replied, "and for me." Later, as survivors were cared for, one alien, a woman older than Asha, looked at her and whispered, "Why did you come back?" Asha knelt beside her. "Because someone came for me." The woman held her hand and cried. The task force disbanded slowly after that. Not because the work was done forever, but because this chapter had ended. Systems were safer, routes monitored, laws strengthened. Asha was offered many paths: education, work, citizenship on several worlds. She chose to stay with Daniel's ship for a while longer, not as cargo, not as rescue, but as crew. She learned navigation. She learned trade. She learned how humans joked in quiet moments and grew serious when it mattered. One day, while traveling through open space, Daniel handed her a small data pad. "What's this?" she asked. "Official release papers," he said. "Recognized by multiple systems. No one can claim you ever again." She stared at the screen for a long time. "Thank you," she whispered. Daniel shook his head. "You earned this." Asha looked out at the stars. They no longer felt distant, they felt possible. At the next port, she stood at the exit ramp, unsure. "You don't have to leave," Daniel said. "And you don't have to stay," she smiled. "I know." She stepped off the ship, then turned back. "Daniel," she said. "Yes." "You didn't just save me," she said. "You showed me what I could become." Daniel's eyes softened. "Then my job was worth it." They parted there, not as savior and victim, but as equals. Years later, stories spread across the galaxy. Stories of humans who did not look dangerous. Humans who used laws like weapons. Humans who showed up quietly and stayed longer than anyone expected. Stories of a former slave who became an advocate, who helped free others, who stood before councils and spoke without fear. And always at the center of those stories, the same truth remained. Humanity was not the strongest species. Humanity was not the smartest. Humanity was the one that refused to look away. They did not rule the galaxy. They protected it. And for Asha, once afraid and bound in chains, the universe had finally become what it was always meant to be. Not a place of fear, but a place where hope, once found, was never allowed to be taken again.